Greetings, my wonderful viewers. March 2020 would be a pivotal moment for the history books. In my update today, which is going to be longer than the usual 3 minutes, I'll toggle between the Canadian and the US economies. I'll talk about market volatility and possibly market bottoms, and then I'll conclude by why I'm optimistic for 2020. I won't spend a lot of time on the major index returns, which are mostly negative. I'll start with COVID-19 update. As of April 3rd, we had crossed over 1 million cases worldwide, and the new epicenter is now the US. And the outbreak is causing a slowdown in the economic activity. It's very obvious, and the first big impact was the number of jobless claims made by American workers, which was about 10 million, and they're likely to get worse for the month of April. Now, the stock market, which is a forward discounting mechanism, is already reflecting this decline in economic activity, and the S&P has lost about a quarter of its value from its last peak, which was recorded on Feb 19th, 2020. Now, the forecast for Q2 and Q3 is not encouraging either. In fact, for Q2, the forecast has no parallels of the recent declines we've seen in the past events. So it's really off the charts as to the fall of economic activity that this virus is likely to cause. If I come back to Canada, we do have the same problem of the slowing down in economic activity because of the virus COVID outbreak, but we have an additional wrinkle to deal with, which is the oil problem. Now, because of the price war that's woken up between Russia and Saudi Arabia, the floor has given away from under the price of oil. And believe it or not, last week you could buy a barrel of Canadian oil for less than what you would pay for a large cup of coffee at Starbucks. So really, this has been an unprecedented time by any sort of way, shape or form. And the volatility that we've seen is the highest on record that we have since the records were started for the stock markets. And I think the point here is that within this volatility lies the opportunity. If we use the past market corrections as any guide, we'll notice that on average, the market would bottom out probably about, on an average, 4 months before the economy bottoms out. So why is it? So I'll just make my case as to why I'm optimistic for 2020. So in my opinion, one all or some of the following things could happen with the virus. Either everybody in the general population, or most of the people in the general population, get in contact with some kind of virus and everybody develops some kind of a herd immunity. Or there could be a vaccine that comes out in the near future, and or the social distancing measures that are being put in place are able to contain the spread of virus. The second, which has been more impressive for me, has been the coordinated response and the speed of the response from policymakers worldwide. And I'll briefly mention both US and Canada. So US Fed cut rates very aggressively, and they launched an unprecedented QE program, which is unlimited, and they are going into investment grade corporate debt. So to me, that takes a lot of headwind from the economy. So if you have a company out there with a good balance sheet and who are not able to raise the money, the Fed is saying we have a backstop, we'll provide you the cash. Now this was complemented by the efforts of the US Congress, which passed a $2 trillion stimulus package, which is about 10% of the US GDP, and to help the individuals and businesses get through this pandemic. Now, the US efforts were paralleled and matched by the Canadian efforts. The Bank of Canada cut its rates, it's launching its own asset purchase program, and the federal government has launched its own stimulus package for individuals and businesses. So I think this would be stimulative for the economy and help us get through the pandemic. So if you think of this in the big picture, you have oil, which is trading at its record lows. You have interest borrowing costs for corporations and individuals, which are at, again, record lows. And so the moment we have some kind of handle on this pandemic and are able to bring this under control, economic activity is bound to come back online, and it's going to be very quick. So I'll just conclude and summarize by saying this. We all need to do our part. We need to stay home. We need to stay safe. We need to practice social distancing. But if you can stomach some short-term market volatility, you would remember this downturn, this pandemic-caused downturn, to be probably one of the greatest buying opportunities of your lifetime. Bye for now.